What led John Witherspoon to expose the alleged affair between Steve Harvey and Richard Pryor? Today, we're diving into the world of stand-up legends with the bombshell revelation. John Witherspoon exposes Steve Harvey's crazy affair with Richard Pryor. Join us as we unpack the jaw-dropping claims made by the late John Witherspoon, shedding light on a scandalous affair involving two iconic comedians. Behind-the-scenes drama to Hollywood secrets, we'll explore the shocking details and unravel the truth behind this sensational story. Let's dive into this fascinating tale of comedy intrigue. Why does Richard Pryor stand out as an essentially influential figure in the evolution of comedy? Trailblazing comedian Richard Pryor transformed stand-up by infusing raw personal experiences and socio-political commentary into his acts. Vulgar yet poetic style tackled taboo topics through a lens both laugh-inducing and discomforting. Pryor demonstrated comedy's capacity to facilitate cultural introspection while uniting diverse audiences. His creative courage forever reshaped artistic possibilities for humorists worldwide, initially emulating tame predecessor Bill Cosby. Before finding his distinctive voice, Pryor molded comedy into a conduit for tackling racism, street life, lockups, and more. Grammy-winning albums captured a cultural zeitgeist during a transitional period for Black identities amid civil rights momentum. By shedding inhibitions on stage paired with virtuosic physical expressiveness, Pryor achieved unprecedented intimacy with crowds. His comedy recordings remain indelible time capsules documenting an American underbelly rarely confronted so vulnerably. How did Pryor expand the subjects considered viable comedic material? While profanity represented the most superficial level of rebellion, Pryor refused limiting his content to satisfy status. He operated as both merry prankster and vigilante truth-teller, shining lights on shadowy societal corners. Pryor audaciously addressed police targeting minority neighborhoods 4 decades before Black Lives Matter formed. Through lenses alternatively poignant, enraged, and empathetic, his act put human faces on effects of discrimination. Pryor likewise candidly tackled intimate relationships and sexuality despite associated stigmas, repurposed the N-word from derogatory slight into almost affectionate verbal identifier, reclaiming power dynamics, normalizing discussions of taboo topics from economic inequality to interracial dating. Pryor fostered greater cultural openness, countering repression. For disenfranchised groups, he represented liberation from expectations to suppress unsavory realities. They discovered through Pryor validation and connection beyond isolation. What made Pryor willing to confront controversial topics more directly than predecessors? The radical counterculture movement that Pryor immersed himself in during the late 1960s widens the scope for what comedians today see as viable comedic material. Prior to Pryor, certain topics were considered completely taboo for the comedy stage. His Berkeley performances shattered existing limitations. Pryor fearlessly tackled subjects including drug use, economic inequality, police brutality, sexuality, and racial discrimination. Adopted the abrasive language of the streets, dropping N-bombs and profanity not as casual slurs, but as an act of defiant reclamation. Pryor gave voice to the rage and frustration of oppression from raw, unfiltered perspectives largely excluded from mainstream visibility. Whereas preceding Black comedians often cater their acts to the comfort of white club owners and audiences, Pryor wholeheartedly embraced the Black Power spirit of the times. Panthers and similar groups sought not pandering assimilation but full-throated liberation. Pryor translated their audacious energy into explosive comedy equally confrontational and cathartic. Unrestrained willingness to shine an unflinching light on society's deepest wounds opened the floodgates for others to follow suit. Pryor demonstrated the immense power of deploying taboo topics for consciousness-raising purposes rather than mindless shock value. He hit audiences unexpectedly with dramatic tonal shifts, fluidly interweaving painful personal trauma, sardonic cultural commentary, and unapologetic, profane language. In the process, Pryor dispelled polite notions that so-called impolite subjects somehow lie beyond comedy's ability to heal and provoke. He proved no lived experience, no matter how messy, serious, or scandalous, rests fundamentally off limits for comedic examination. The great comedy connects precisely by giving platform to shared realities existing on the margins, yet so universally relatable. He forged intimate bonds between wildly diverse audiences by spotlighting our shared human fallibility. Few black voices before him had translated anger and anguish so poignantly. In doing so, with such poetic, profane grace on a public stage, he fostered a collective cultural catharsis. Pryor gave people permission to stop feigning propriety and confront reality head-on with humor's alchemy. Awakening society to injustice through the Trojan horse of comedy, Pryor opened exciting imaginative frontiers. Those coming up in his footsteps absorbed invaluable lessons regarding material limitations. Mindset expansively defiant of comforting convention resonates today through figures like Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and Sarah Silverman, pushing boundaries from racial assumptions to abortion rights. In retrospect, Pryor's immersion in radically charged circles proved central for expanding his comedic vision. The dreams of systemic change through upending establishment strongholds shaped his artistic choices, breaking comedic taboos. Pryor demonstrated the immense subversive power laying just below comedy's jovial, accessible surface in the right audacious hands. How did childhood hardships shape Pryor's approach to comedy? Nothing remained off limits, neither censoring organs nor social proprieties. Pryor relished reactions as much as laughs, more performance artist than traditional comic. Breaking comedic boundaries with profane grace, he fostered cultural liberation from shame and secrecy. Pryor's willingness delving into shadowy spaces traced directly back to early life exposures nurturing both compassion and rebellion. He endured traumatic experiences no child deserves, yet discovered solace mobilizing laughter in others. Though initially emulating Bill Cosby representing black upliftment through family-friendly guidance, Pryor eventually rejected filtering hardships' impacts. Born in 1940, Pryor faced shocking abuse growing up in his grandmother's brothel. He witnessed grown-ups' altercations incorporating violence, witnessed attempts at ending pregnancies, and even abuse by local religious leaders. Following abandonment by his mother around age 10, Pryor often skipped school, spending days in movie theaters, escaping grim realities awaiting at home. Vicious neighborhood elements surrounded his youth. While affecting Pryor's worldview indelibly, these early ordeals also birthed comedic instincts. Class clowning shielded the sensitive child, redirecting bullies' attention while earning affection from reluctantly charmed authority figures. Pryor discovered comedy's potent capacity, uplifting spirits and building connections amidst dysfunction. Though difficulties continued plaguing his adulthood, Pryor channeled agony into genius on stage, reconstituting injury as insight. How have iconic figures like Eddie Murphy carried on Pryor's legacy? Today, the breadth of Pryor-inspired traditions framing modern comedy appears almost impossible quantifying precisely. As an artist, championing creative courage meshed with societal skepticism without losing accessibility, Pryor made the forbidden funny. Bridging underground sentiments with commercial viability, he offered templates launching countless careers. Eddie Murphy counts Pryor for fully forming his comedic instincts more than any predecessor. Murphy echoed both Pryor's fluid physicality and gift, addressing controversial topics colorfully. Legions of 1990s sketch variety shows shaping future Saturday Night Live performers followed suit, challenging Pryor's spirit. Themes of Pryor's vulnerability and willingness exposing personal shortcomings undergird modern confession storytelling comedy popularized by Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and Hannah Gadsby, among others. Pryor demonstrated relatability and resonance, exploring his own imperfections. He made the extremely intimate universally compelling with ingenious comic timing. Even polarizing figures like Andrew Dice Clay consciously channeled Pryor's profane style decades later in controversial persona, pushing boundaries and free speech limits further. Countless heralded comics credit Pryor for expanding imagination regarding presentation, material viability, and connection with crowds. As we conclude our exploration into the sensational claims made by John Witherspoon regarding Steve Harvey's alleged affair with Richard Pryor, we're left with more questions than answers. Don't forget to hit that like button below and subscribe to our channel. Your support fuels our passion for uncovering the truth behind the headlines and bringing you engaging content. Feel free to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. Until next time, stay tuned for more captivating stories from the comedy scene. Thanks for watching.